Like I've been doing Zooms all over lockdown. 90%
You've
of
been
them
doing.
are horrific. Like, let's just be honest about that one. Horrific.
Wait, you haven't been doing Zoom comedy gigs, so have you?
Yes,
Eh,
of course I have.
What?
Of course I have. But to do a Zoom gig and for people to turn off their cameras is off the charts. Is off the charts. I did a Zoom gig recently, and the manager, whoever, is asking people to like turn on your cameras and like let's all get involved, which is definitely going to help the situation, right? Like
Hmm.
100%. And so this one gets shamed into turning their camera on. She's out walking the fucking dog.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Finnterviews. I'm your host Connor Finn, and this is the show where I get to chat to the most Finteresting people I know. You know the score by now. Anyways, this week we had the pleasure of sitting down for a chat with the hilarious Emma Doran. Emma is one of my favourite comedians out there, and I got to chat to her all about how she got started in stand-up from stalking producers and auditioning for shows about 7 months pregnant, how being the youngest in the family and getting bullied by her brothers basically got her really good at survival tactics and good at people watching. Yeah. Also, we talked about her fear of the corporate life and love for shit jobs, as well as Zoom gigs and the peaks and pits of a life in comedy. Emma was just so down to earth, so funny. I had such a good time having the chats with her for what was quite an early podcast recording. So you guys, I think, are just going to absolutely love this. So without further ado, please enjoy this latest episode of Finnterviews with the wonderful Emma Doran. Well, welcome back to another episode of Finnterviews. On the show this week, I'm delighted to welcome on the brilliant Emma Doran. How's it going, Emma?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for coming on. I'm doing great. I was just explaining there. I mean, this is probably one of actually the earliest podcasts I've done so far. So I'm hoping that I'm like up to standard. Usually I have like a bit of, life in me at this point, but you know what, we'll steam off. I mean, I'm a coffee deep, so I'm just hoping like I don't just like
Yeah,
viciously
we're
start
gonna see the
twitching.
real you. I think when it's this early in the morning, it's just you don't have time to get beaten down by the day.
Exactly.
So
I have to just
I
go with
think you can
whatever
be good.
demons have been keeping me up last night, so yeah.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah.
But how's
Yeah,
yourself keeping anyways? How's it going? I mean, Tuesday, what else would you be at? Sure.
I know. What else would you be at? No, I'm good. Like, yeah, I'm good. Sorry, I was gonna start getting into like, am I good? No, I'm good. I'm saying I'm a 7.5 out of 10 right now. So that's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, there's room for improvement. So, I mean, that's
Yeah.
always
Oh yeah, definitely. Always.
yeah, that's the
No,
important
I'm
part
grand.
there. No, but I suppose Emma, obviously, I mean, in the rare occasion that somebody is listening to this and has find me, have they been living under a rock? No, like
Come on. Come
I
on.
suppose come on. I suppose maybe tell us very briefly, kind of about yourself, where you're from, your background, I suppose what you're known for, because I'm not going to butcher it and try to tell you what you're known for.
Okay. So background in terms of what people might know me for or whatever. I'm a stand-up comedian. So I started doing stand-up about 8 years ago, and just kind of somebody told me. So I did this kind of open suppose it was open audition for this prank show on RTE.
Hmm.
I'm already like really saying a prank show. But that kind of way, and still, I was gonna say, that kind of way back in the day, but still very much the case. You'll do any old thing to try and get yourself on telly, really,
Hmm.
basically. So I had always been into like acting and stuff, but I never really said it to people because oh my God, Scarlett, like absolute notions. Do you know what I mean?
You want to
This
follow
little
your
midget
dreams,
ginger girl,
freak?
like I
God.
want, yeah, this little freakazoid. I want to be an actress. Like, yeah, good for you. You're working in a bank. And so I never really said it to anybody. And then I sent these kind of funny videos to this producer fella. It sounds kind of dodgy now, but like I went on LinkedIn and I looked. So when I was watching TV back in the day, I would look at the credits and
Mm,
see like who made it and what production company it was. And like I was always like doing my little sly research. So
mm.
I found all these producers, and he was one of the few that got back to me. And anyway, he got me to audition for the show. And I didn't get it because when I turned up to the audition, I was actually 7 months pregnant. I've like, forgot to mention that part of it and just tried to wear this like black billowy top. And so then later I got the part anyway, and later they were like, "Are you kind of pregnant?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm fairly pregnant." So the date that it was meant to be happening was the date that I was like due. So they're like, we can't, obviously you can't do it like just for insurance and all that jazz. So it was Devo, absolutely Devo. But he said to me, "You should do stand up." And I was like, "Yeah, I've been thinking about it." Now, I thought he was giving me like great advice. And I was like, "Wow, he thinks I should do stand up. He must think I'm good." But in hindsight, perhaps he was trying to like just get rid of me. Do you know what I mean? Because I was kind of on to him all the time. Going, but look, if I had the baby in the morning, I could definitely come in the afternoon. Like I was just like, so this is like my first ever like
I can hold it in, I
nugget.
swear. Jesus.
Yeah, like my first nugget of like any possibilities of doing anything like that. So he's like, do stand up. So then I took his advice and I signed up for an open mic night. So that was how it it started for me. And I was like, oh, okay. So I got sucked in then.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
explains it.
And I suppose from, pregnant auditions to like, getting up on stage, like, I mean, what I would kind of really know you for is your kind of sketches online. I suppose, like, I
Yeah.
chatted to a kind of couple other like comedians, like kind of yourself, that like, I would say obviously putting out content like constantly, but like, Jesus, like, it shocks me every single time that like, you know, any kind of thing happens and somebody has like the actual humor to like and capacity to go like, this will be funny, let me make humor of the news right here now. Like my brain does not work like that, so whenever I'm like scrolling through Twitter or something like that, it's like your videos would come up constantly and I'd be like cackly laugh and be like, how is she so good at this? But like, I suppose, like, to that, like, I mean, where does that kind of come from? Like I suppose, as you're saying, like you were kind of trying to get into this acting, like I suppose, and then with the stand up, like, was this like something you'd always kind of gravitated towards, like with comedy, I suppose, or like was there ever potentially like another path in mind, like that you were going down, or?
Mm, no, if I to be honest, like I never really had anything else that I could like in terms of like aspiring to do.
Mm,
Like no, and it's one of those things, it's kind of like it starts out as a bit of a like a dirty secret that you have to admit it, like you have to say it out loud, like I actually want to do this. And the videos was actually something I did first. And I remember to send to this producer fella, my friend at the time. So this is like years ago, but she was
mm.
like, "Oh, you have to like set up a Facebook page and put them up online." And I was just like, "Oh my God," like people would see them then. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I was just like, to me, the whole thing, I was just like, no, that's absolutely mortifying. So in fairness, she kind of forced me into it. And
Gunpoint,
but
yeah.
so I think the stand-up before lockdown, like I was working full time and I was probably gigging like 4 nights a week. So I was
Mm,
just in that thing of I had absolutely like I had no time. I was working every day till 5:30 and then going to gigs. And like I have a family of dogs, like I had no time at all. So then when lockdown came, I had a bit more time. So I
mm,
think I had more time to do videos on like a regular basis.
mm,
Now I have to say like people like Shane Dan Byrne or Killian Sunderman, they are great at like something happens and they just like boom, put it out straight away.
mm.
And I've literally like I've only seen that this thing is going on. Do you know that kind of way? I'm just like they're so fast. But definitely like from working at home, that definitely helped because even just the fact that you're in your own space,
Yeah.
so it's easier to be in ideas mode than when you're in like a corporate office, like in every
Mm.
20 minutes it's somebody else's fucking birthday and you're just like, happy
Yeah.
whose birthday is it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just quite a bit of, even though like you are technically inverted commas working, you just have more headspace, I found anyway. And yeah, it was just like a lot of like, even though they're videos, a lot of the gags or like the style of humor is very similar to what I would have been doing on stage. But
Mm.
it's just with the online stuff, you have the potential sometimes, because obviously there's a few clangers in there as well. But if the video does well, you have the potential to reach like a lot more people than you would, through
Yeah.
a gig. So like they're different things, and both have different benefits or whatever. But so I'm totally waffling now. Does that make sense? I was like, what was the question? But no,
No,
there
you're
was
doing
never
great.
any. There was never anything else. Although I didn't admit it to myself for a long time. But yeah, I kind of was aware that I wanted to do performing of some description,
Mm.
and that it was going to lean towards funny stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
I suppose, like, with that kind of in mind as well, like, I think it's always kind of like interesting where different people's kind of humors come from as well. Like this, I mean, like, I suppose, like, was there like any kind of major inspiration, or I suppose, like, in your terms of like humor comedy? Because, like, again, like, I think you strike kind of gold with, well, in terms of the kind of like videos that I would have seen and stuff like this, where it's like the almost like managing to get those like tiny little like common things that happen in the day that you kind of forget about, and then, like, putting the spotlight under them, I think is like you're like really good. You were like, I suppose it's like, as soon as the
oh,
pandemic came out
thanks.
and everything comes out, and be like, sure, isn't it mad? Like, just that kind of way, you're being like, oh fuck me, like, and just kind of like putting that microscope under it. But I suppose, like, is there anything or anybody that particularly kind of influenced you, or does it just kind of, suppose, come from like your own general humor, like your family and stuff as well? Like, I'm always kind of curious where it comes from, like, and where people kind of get this, because
Yeah.
I have none. So,
Stop. But there's loads of people who inspire me, like even people who say wouldn't be like my style, or probably I wouldn't be their target
mm,
demographic, like demo or whatever. I always get something from watching somebody perform. Do you know what I
mm,
mean? Even if it's just a way of how they their physicalities, or so I'm constantly would be inspired by people. But I think my in terms of like my sense of humor, it would be something that I wouldn't even think about. So I remember when another comedian, described my style to me, they were like, oh, it's very dry, and I do like a reveal thing. And I was just like, sorry, what? I'm not getting my house done up. What are you talking about? So I never knew about like style of jokes. But I
mm.
think in my family, it was so I'm like the youngest. I have two older brothers, and within the whole family, there would always be like a lot of slagging, like really like deep, deep, deep. So if you could find something on somebody that other people hadn't spotted, like
Eh,
that was gold. Do you know what I mean? Like that was
yeah.
absolute gold. So I think I always just loved like people watching or whatever. Or like my brother's just so good at, like, I remember like obviously years ago when like I was kind of perhaps like on the cusp of puberty. My dad got me this magazine, and these like shit magazines back in the day, where when you were 12, you wanted like the magazine that was targeted towards the 15-16 year old,
Yeah,
but it was
yeah.
really targeted towards your age group. So he bought me this magazine, like the Dan magazine, which was pure kid kiddie
Yeah.
magazine. But in it, there was a poster of the lead singer of Doran. And I knew he just had one song, Things Can Only Get Better, right? And I was like getting to that age where I was trying to like discover what my own taste or whatever. And I put this poster up on my wall. Now, I didn't fancy this fella, wasn't even
Mm.
particularly into that one song, but it was me trying to like, oh, like, look at me, I'm like a teenager putting posters up on my wall. Well, never thought about it. My brothers crucified me for about a month about that poster, and they sang the song to me all the time. And because they had just spotted something that I was just like unaware of, how ridiculous this whole thing was. And they destroyed me, but they destroyed me so bad that I couldn't take the poster down, because then I knew they'd be like, oh, she's taking
Yeah.
the poster down. So I think just their attention to detail to my behavior know what I mean?
the attention to detail to like abuse. You're being like, outstanding, really good work, guys. Honestly, you're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
crippling me inside. My ego was on the floor. I mean, well
Oh, it was totally like, so they totally destroyed me. But I
done.
think even though like I had mates like growing up, I don't want to say like I was Billy, no mates at all, but I was always on like, I was always slightly outside.
Yeah.
So, like I had like a couple of different friend groups and a couple of different people I hung around. So I was always like kind of on the outside. I was always kind of floating around.
Mm.
So I'd always be like just like watching people all the
Yeah.
time. And I used to write, one of my favorite things in school was I used to write these little stories for a friend of mine in her journal about her and the teachers. So I would like study the teachers, you know what I mean? Like everyone does that, don't they? They just study the teachers. But I
Yeah.
used to write her little stories about her with the teachers, and then I'd watch her read them and watch her laughing, and that used to just like give me so much joy. So yeah, I think, but like now, having said that, like my parents were very into comedy, like on TV.
Yeah.
So they would have been watching people like Eddie Izzard. My mom was big into Eddie Izzard, and they were big into things like Rasby Nesbitt and Billy Connolly, and like whatever comedy that was on TV, they were consuming it. So I suppose I was getting, and like Peter Kay, people like that. So I was getting a lot, I was consuming a lot of comedy.
Mm.
And I think as well, if you've older brothers as well, they, or like older siblings, they'll introduce you to stuff as well. So they like would introduce me to Alan Partridge and his
Yeah.
like earlier stuff as well. So yeah, I was getting a lot of exposure to comedy. But like at the time, obviously you're not thinking about it like that. You're just watching the
Yeah.
telly and
Yeah.
enjoying it. Like you're not thinking about like, oh, I'm getting so much exposure to comedy. Um, so yeah, I have to say that there's no comedic individuals where I'd looked to and would have said like, yeah, that's where I want to be. But it would
Mm.
have been soaking up all of the stuff that was available to me, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, from between, like getting absolutely rattled by your brothers and like, yeah, being, in school, yeah, just making up bollocks by the teachers. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I suppose that's kind of where everybody kind of draws from at the end of the day. Like, just when you're saying that, like, I'm the exact same. I'm the youngest, three older ones, like
Oh
up to like
yeah.
5 years older. So like, I remember even, like whenever you're young, you just feel like you're referencing into. I remember it was like, I think I was at like primary one or like, would that be like junior infants or I'm not sure. Like
Like what
six
age
or
are you?
so. Huh?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, like six or like seven and stuff. And I remember like my ones were watching like Little Britain at the time and stuff like that was coming out. And
Yes.
like you're being like, I feel like you maybe like get matured into things a little bit quicker than like you understand, but like to the point where people be like, oh yeah, like that's funny, and then you're going like, wait, what? Like I feel like I was
Yeah,
very
you
much
look
picking
back
up
at
on that.
things and you're like,
Yeah,
you start to see these jokes that you didn't see the first time around, and you're like,
yeah,
oh, okay, okay. Yeah, I see it now.
yeah,
But yeah, I think when you're the youngest, you definitely, but you see, I think, I don't know if you had this experience, but when you're the youngest as well, you kind of learn how to like charm or like play them off each other and be like,
Mm.
like you kind of go over to one, you're like, yeah, I think it's terrible what they did to you. And then you go over to the other one, and you're like, what the fuck are they all about?
Oh, it's like complete business management, honestly. You're gonna be
So
like,
you're
right,
kind of like,
you're
you're
trying
kind
to
of
just
this little
protect yourself.
charmer,
Yeah.
like getting out of situations while you can as well. So I think that helps with stand up. You know what I mean? It's like stand up is basically like the lowest of the low when it comes to like performing. You're literally like the cockroaches. Do you know what I mean? And there's this joke in comedy where if people post like a good gig, like say they got booked for like a really like sweet gig, whatever, always some comedian underneath it will write who books that, because that's like the joke in comedy where the second anyone gets like a nice gig, someone's on to them, who books that, how'd you get that gig, how can
Yeah.
I get a bit of that sweet action, you know what I mean? So we're kind of Yeah, I think the youngest are like sneakier than people kind of know that we are.
Yeah, exactly. God, really, we're outing ourselves now.
Oh yeah, come
God, be
on,
like, we're just,
let's out it.
master manipulators. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally,
Just catering
totally.
to whatever
Well,
anybody
it's
wants.
oh
Yeah.
totally, yeah, but survival. It's
Yeah,
survival. You have
exactly.
to. Yeah,
Sociopaths by survival. I
yeah,
suppose, like, I suppose, like, before this kind of life, I know, as you're saying, getting into comedy and stuff like this, maybe tell us about, I don't know if you had many character building, I suppose, jobs like growing up that may have kind of informed, the kind of person, that you are today, the kind of humor, I suppose, because I know from just experience, obviously very interesting, seeing how people got to where they are. But I feel like, as you said, it's the things that kind of like inform that from like, the exterior. Like, I mean, I always start
yeah.
off like, we were fucking country ones, like from Armagh, and like dad was like dragging us out to pick like strawberries whenever we were like 5 years old, like in the fields, like at the time, be like, yeah, this is completely fine. Until I realized, whenever I was like working in like my first like proper job was in like Domino's, and I was be like, well, you get paid to be like indoors. I was like, this is sick, lads. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
like, so since then, do you know what I mean? Everything's just been like fucking whoa, 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 working from home. I'm being like, oh, highly versus boys and girls. Like, but I suppose, like, have you had any kind of like, I suppose, character building jobs in that way, growing up?
Well, my parents never subjected me to child labor, so
Mm.
I'll give them that. Um,
Good for
no,
some,
do you know,
yeah.
I was always down for a job. Actually, I probably would have loved that. Now, if I got paid, did you get paid?
Oh yeah, but like it was very much like you didn't realize that it was like actually labor. So it would have been about
Okay,
2 weeks of work, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You have like maybe like a jam sandwich in between. And then your uncle at the end of 2 weeks gives you 20, and he's be like, oh, there you
okay,
go. You're
yeah.
like, yeah.
But I suppose if they catch you at the right age, that is a sweet, like it is
It's
well, I won't
it's
say
good.
sweet deal, but it's a deal. Like I'm sure I would have been.
Child labor. Do you know what
I
I mean? Like
loved.
it's a good deal, guy.
No, I loved money. So in fairness, like if like say I had an auntie or an uncle up to that crack, I would have been like first in the queue. Because actually, I remember, um, when I was a kid, somebody was I got word that there was some sort of like paper round going on,
Mm.
and I was like, oh yeah, give me a piece of that action. Like I wanted in wherever there was a sniff of money, I wanted that action. Um, I was when those kids sail of work, fucking all that shit. But in terms of jobs, oh my god, I've had so many jobs. Like only like in recent years and like more recent than I would care to admit, I
Mhm.
was working in a coffee shop, right?
Right.
So I was at this thing where I was like doing the comedy and stuff, but I wanted to like get a house.
Mm.
And the bank were just like, are you a drug dealer? What is the story? We're not going to give you anything. So I was like, I need to just get a job. I
Mm.
need to get a job like where I'm an employee, I'm not
Mm.
self-employed to like kind of back all this crap up.
Mm.
So I got a job in a coffee shop and my family were like this is only a few years ago. They were like, Emmy, you don't need to like do this. And I because I had been looking for a job for so long, I was at the
Mm.
point where no, I just need to take it.
Mm.
No, I was being very like very fussy about my job hunt. Like I wanted something that was like 20 minutes walk from my house and was somewhere like connected in the media, right? So like
Yeah.
very like of course it took me a fucking over a year to get a job. But anyway, so I went and worked in this coffee shop, went up for my little interview, and it was up the Dublin mountains, so you kind of had to be able to drive because it was up all these mad roads or whatever. And she's like, can you start on Monday or whatever? And I was like, yeah. So she's like, great. I was a fucking kitchen porter. I wasn't even serving. And I had a cake and I had worked like front of house, whatever before loads of
Yeah.
times. And I was starting to get so paranoid. I was like, why do they keep betting me in the kitchen? So it's like me, mother of three in my 30s, and like this lad who's 17, who's like waiting on his results. And I just like, fucking hell. like exhausting work, right? And the odd time when they were very, very busy, they would let me go out on the floor to take the
Let you show
odd.
your face, yeah.
This, like, I am not exaggerating at all. This, like, this is completely
First they fuck you up
true.
the Dublin Mountains, and then next thing they won't even let you see the people, honestly.
Fuck's sake. Why won't they give me a go? Like, what the fuck is wrong with me? So I went out one day, and you see, when you go out on the floor, anyone will know this, is that people will just automatically ask you, like, they'll want to order something off you or ask you for something. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
they don't know that you're just the scum that's kept in the back room that cannot be seen. And you start to really like resent the people. You're just like, oh, couldn't clean off your own plate. Okay, I'll get it, I suppose. So I'm clearing these tables, and this fella says to me, he starts pointing at me, and I'm like, oh no. It's like, right, I know you don't. I was like, what? And he's like, you make videos online. So at the time I'd done some videos with this other comedian, Jen Hatton. He's like, you do the videos with Jen Hatton, don't you? And I was like, oh yeah, I do. Yeah. He's like, can I get a photo with you? And I was like, oh my god, because like I was like, I looked horrific. Like I'm
Yeah.
just in the back, like with grease and everything. And I really didn't want to, because I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be such a bad picture. But I was
Yeah.
like, Emma, cop on, just like take the picture. This is like a nice thing or whatever. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, cool. And he takes the picture, and as he's taking the picture, in the same breath, he says to me, can we get more ketchup as well? Thanks. So literally like this, can we get more ketchup? And it was just like, within that's like, honestly,
Build you
within
up
that,
and then fucking kick you down. Jesus
yeah,
Christ. Like,
within a second, it was just like this roller coaster, like, oh good, oh god. And just had to go get the ketchups and, like, shuffle back to the kitchen and wash plates and stuff. So like that was recently, because I think when you're younger and you do those jobs, you don't care. Like, I mean, I did loads of those
yeah.
jobs, like in pubs, and
Mm,
like I worked in a chipper in Courtown and Wexford, and like
yeah.
did loads, all those jobs. But when you're younger, you don't mind. But I think when you're older and you're just like, like you knew it already, but you're just like, what the fuck was the point of that degree? Like, what was the point of that degree? It was so pointless. That was 4 years, totally pointless. So it was fairly soul destroying, I have to say. But I left. I was there for a few months though.
Jesus fucking Christ. I mean,
No, it's
for
not like I just did like one shift and
yeah,
they
and
kind
yeah,
of,
and then
no, no,
you got recognized. You're being like, lads, get the fuck out of here.
no,
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 you're
no.
you're like,
And it
I'll come back
happened
tomorrow.
again. It happened again. So, but yeah, that was pretty bad. Because then, even like when you think of it, like my goal was to get out on the floor. And then even when you get out on the floor, you're just like, right, you know what I mean? Like this, so is this what I've wanted? This, like, what's going
Oh
on?
no,
I need to get out of here.
like that.
So
Oh.
yeah. So I'll do like basically I will do anything. Like I'll do anything. Like I heard somebody there recently talking about how, oh, because of like COVID, right? They were a
Mm,
performer, and because of COVID, they were delivering takeaways.
okay.
And it was like, for the little bit of cash, but it was also like just for their own head and their sanity, that they
Yeah,
had,
get out of the house.
doing the
Yeah,
delivery for the local takeaway. And it was kind of getting made into this big thing, like, weren't they brave and whatever. And they obviously were, but like in my fucked up head, I'm thinking, good tips. I'm like, I'd do it in a heartbeat. I was like, I'd be totally pulling down the mask in case by chance anyone had watched the video. I'm like, yeah, you just want a tip, yeah. So to me, I was like, that's not bad. You're in a car.
yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not having to do with the grease or like, chips and all that. Like, because food is so, like, food is
Yeah,
so messy. Like
yeah.
it is. Or, clearing people's tables. You're just like, you are scum. So to
Oh
me, I was just like,
God,
delivering Chinese. I mean, you're basically
stunning. Sign me up.
People are so happy to see you. People are so happy to see you. Do you know what I mean? They've already probably paid or whatever. So I
Yeah.
was like, happy days. Sounds pretty sweet to me. So I will do any old fucking job.
Sorry, I think that's one of the
I really
best
will.
answers I've had to that. Where the people just been like it always end up like ones be like, oh yeah, I had this like real fucking weird like call center job, and like that really taught me to like just you can deal with anybody. But you're just being like honestly like anything like I just I'm money hungry like
Oh,
you're like
anything.
go for it, yeah, whatever.
I'll do any old shite. Like I really will. Like needs must and all that jazz. Like totally. And I suppose this is actually what it's really about. I'd much prefer to do a job that's like close to my gaff
Mm,
and you know what I mean? It's a bit of fucking easy breezy
yeah.
than to go into some corporate place and do that interview and just tell them that my passion is,
Mm.
in like quarterly reports, like it just they are the jobs that like psychologically have
Oh,
damaged
well,
me.
literally, yeah, drive you off. Like, you'll be coming home and you'll be like, we're gonna yeet this car. Like, do you know what I mean? Fuck
Yeah, you're
that.
just like you're driving the
Like,
car and you're like that whole thing of like being in rush hour or whatever. You're like, if I just turn the wheel, if I just turn it just for the crack to see what happens, to see if I'm actually alive, and if I like drive this like car into the side of the road, will something happen? So like I'd much prefer to like scrub a bit of grease and put headphones in
yeah,
than be in one of those environments where I'm
yeah.
just you just want to go into the jacks and scream into the abyss and go, what is the fucking point of
Mm.
this? Like, this is pointless. Do you know what I mean? Like,
One more
so
happy birthday, as you said. My God, fucking send you like.
just the whole thing is like
Thank you
it's
so
like
much for
it's
the spar,
scripted.
lemon drizzle. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Are you doing anything tonight? It's like as if the whole thing is scripted. You start to think like that you're like it's the Truman Show, because it's the same chat on Monday morning. It's the
Mm.
same chat when it starts to get up to the weekend. It's just all the same. And just like people putting so much effort into all these jobs. And it's like at the end of the day, if these folks had to get rid of you tomorrow, they would have
Oh.
no problem getting you
Mm.
like out the door.
Yeah.
So I kind of like probably yeah, I could go and do those jobs when I need cash, but it's I don't know, maybe it's some sort of like self-harm thing or whatever. I'm like, no,
Self sabotage.
yeah, you've gotten
Yeah.
yourself into this situation now. Do the dirtiest job you can fucking find. So so this turned into a bit of a therapy session. So I'm like, why didn't I just go get that marketing job? Why
Oh
didn't
no,
I do
honestly,
that?
I hear you. Like, don't get me wrong. There's actually, oh my god, there's a. I don't know if you've ever seen Bob's Burgers. It's this.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. There's like this scene from it that, and it'll pop my timeline. Do you know so many things that come up and be like, this is targeted. Like, this one's fucking targeted. Like, but it's like the guy like having like a nightmare about like he just really wants to get a stable job and does that whole like office thing, but like so accurately. It's like at the work, it'll be like, so how's the kids? What you been up to this weekend? The happy birthday, like going home and stuff like this. And like he wakes up screaming, being like, thank God, I'm doing this stuff. Never in my life until I'd like, got into some kind of be like a perm job. I was like, yeah, don't have to worry about, fucking doing all this other
Yeah.
stuff. Had I like literally like heart palpitations, be like, like I love that. It's just like honestly the most terrifying thing until you're out of it, and then you're being like, oh fuck, I actually kind of need something handy, and
I
then
know that's
it's
see
just a
that's
vicious
it.
fucking circle, like.
It
But
is. It's a vicious cycle, and like I've had loads of jobs. I've been in job, like 2 years is kind of that's pretty much the max.
mm.
Like I'll do somewhere like 2 years and then I'm out of there, and I'm like bye.
I
But
usually go on how many staff dues. I'll be like, I'll make it. I do want to get to that one because I heard they're going to like Galway for that. So like,
yeah,
yeah, I do.
they're all the same. But like, look, we're all just trying to get by. But every place that I've worked, there's always some wagon within like week one when you start work there. She's like, "You see him? Let me tell you about him." Do you know what I mean? There's always someone in there who's like rotting from the inside out. And they're like, this place this place will destroy you. And you're just like, okay, great. Like,
Okay.
so you're like, you see that person the first week and you're like,
Yeah.
right, I have to get out of here before I become them.
Yeah, or you have to get out of there before they do, or else then you'd be like, shit, I am that person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're just going to step into that position. So,
Before you turn into the one being like, so that's what you're supposed to, but like, that's how I do it. Like, nobody complains about it. So, like,
yeah. Look,
But
I'm sure I'll have a crap job again. Do you know what I mean? It's
fingers
like,
crossed, you know what I mean?
yeah, fingers crossed. Like whenever the old gratitude journal is looking a bit sparse, I kind of think maybe I need to have a crap job, and then because earning money's hard. Like it reminds you, it's like, yeah, fuck, this is hard. So
But
yeah, love a shit job.
love a shit job. But, I mean, maybe to take it away from that, like I suppose in this whole kind of scene that, you know, has been comedy, has been sketches, the good stuff, the fun stuff, you know, like that, like
yeah
isn't the fucking like scraping out the pots and pans. Like, have there been any major standout moments that came from this, I suppose, life and this kind of new world into, you know, entertainment, you know, comedy that maybe you never, I suppose, thought could have happened like beforehand? Like, I suppose even if the likes, you know, your podcast, stuff like this, like, are there any kind of major things that you like turn around and you're being like, holy fucking, all right, this isn't too bad? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you know,
like, I mean,
funny.
the 3 Arena, like, Jesus, like.
Yeah, that was a good one. It's funny because it is really, it's one of those things where on any day it'll just be like a constant stream of like good news, bad news, up downs. Like it's like, it is the funniest thing ever, I have to say. Like you get an email about something and it'll just be like, oh, they want, like, you're getting booked for some gig and they're telling you like the lineup or whatever, and then you're like, this sounds pretty good, and then you get another email and it's like, oh, you're only getting like 5 minutes and they want you to give like people a lift, and it's like, it's all starting to sound a bit shit now. And or like there'd be something that you think you booked and then you get to the call, you don't even get the call, you're like, oh no, that's getting cancelled now, no one's telling me, oh, I'm all, you know. So it's constantly ups and downs, whatever. But yeah, like 3 Arena was great. I'm like, I remember that gig, I was so nervous about it, but it was actually, sometimes like the bigger gigs are less nerve-wracking than the smaller ones, because like somebody is going to laugh. Whereas like if you have a gig and it's like 12 people, that's kind of more, it's nearly more intense. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing riding on it. Like if there's like, you know, 12 people at a gig and, you know, 8 of them are over for the weekend from like Liverpool, and like, you know, they're never going to see you again. Like this, but sometimes those gigs can require more energy than gigs with loads and loads of people there.
You're trying to play the little sister game again, where you're being like, is this going to make them laugh? Like, oh, like you're trying to like pick out like whatever's going to get them like the tiniest bit of fucking like, you know, engagement. You're really like, yeah.
That it's really like that. Yeah. And like, obviously they can see, they're so close to you, so they can see like literally like the whites of your eyes. You know what I mean? I think one that was good at the time when it happens, that kind of way. So like kind of in the context of where you are in your inverted commas career. I remember I got to do support for Mark Maron in Vicar Street, and that was really good because I was worried about it, because when you're doing comedy clubs all the time, your comedy gets kind of honed into a particular thing, because you're catering to that audience that you meet in like pubs and clubs at the weekend, and it becomes quite colloquial, and you know what I mean, you have to like cater to the audience. So when I was doing stand-up for him, I was quite nervous about it, because I was like, oh, this, I don't know how this is gonna go down, you know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, willies, you know, you're not really sure that's gonna go down with his audience. But he was really nice and the gig went really well, and I got loads of like messages from his fans and stuff,
lawyers
and lawyers, and he gave me a shout out on his podcasts and stuff, and so that was nice. At the time it it was one of those things, like you do get these things every so often that just like give you a little bit of a lift at the time.
Mm.
So you're kind of, because you can get stuck in this thing where you're kind of doing the same gigs,
Yeah.
and you're not really hearing of like anything going on, and if you are hearing of anything, it's fuck all got to do with you anyway, like it's already happening. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, I didn't know that was happening, I never heard about that. So it's, and then you just move on to the next thing. Do you know that
Yeah.
kind of way? So it's not like, I think back in the day where you like say for people like, I don't know, someone like Jason Byrne, right? I'd say probably
Yeah.
back in the day, if he had a show and he went on the Late Late and got interviewed, that probably the show was probably sold out then after that. Like that was it, job
Yeah.
done, whatever. So I don't think it works like that anymore, because I think there's so many different ways people consume their entertainment that
Yeah.
it's all just kind of exhausting monumental steps kind of in
Mm.
the right direction.
Mm.
I don't think that, I don't, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm just totally naive. I don't think there's anything as like one single like big break anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe there is and I just haven't gotten it yet or whatever. But I think every few months you need at least something that like gives you a little boost or a lift and go, oh, okay, like I'm
Yeah.
heading in the right direction. So it can even be like somebody online, like knowing who you are or
Mm.
sharing something that you did. You know what I
Mm.
mean? That can kind of, that day that can make you go, oh, okay,
Mm.
that's cool, I like that.
Me? Ooh.
Yeah. I know who I am. Okay. Okay. You stab me, okay, whatever. So it's just little things like that. It's just little nuggets that kind of help you. But it's very much, I don't know whether this is just in comedy or whatever, but it's very much like if you get one good thing or nice thing, whatever, like depending on what it is or whatever, that kind
Mm.
of like for me anyway, it kind of lasts for the day or maybe a couple of days if it's something really juicy, and then
Mm.
after that you're kind of like, okay, what now? Because the
Mm.
more work you do, the more you have to work
Mm.
in a way.
Yeah, yeah, it is a bit of a catch-22. Yeah, it's
But
like
I'm even
the more you have to give
like
out, like
yeah, like so like say if someone like the first like big show that they do, like say a solo show, the first,
Mm.
they've basically been able to spend the years up to that putting that together,
Mm.
because they can do that because no
Yeah,
one's gone to that big show to pay to see them. But then
yeah,
the next one, they have to completely start that from scratch.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So, um,
Just an endless cycle, honestly.
yeah, it's just like being a kitchen porter. It just is never ending. Just plate after plate
And then you
after
get
plate.
dragged onto some fucking weird podcast with three Nordy again. Like, Jesus Christ, you know
But
what I
you
mean? You have to fucking
no, but
go
you
through the
do it
muck
like,
again, honestly.
yeah. So,
I
no,
suppose, like,
this is a good podcast. But no, but like you're a normal person. Like it's like this is
oh,
just
thank
like
God
a
that's coming
normal
across,
chat.
yeah.
But
But I
yeah, so
suppose,
it's just a
like,
constant thing. But
yeah.
you do get little things along the way that help you to go, oh yeah, grand.
Mm.
I'll keep slagging.
Maybe this is like the wrong question to ask. And I was going to kind of
Yeah.
ask, like, oh, are there any like major like horror stories from working in the industry? Or, I mean, does that just come with like being at all in any kind of comedy? Because, like, as you said, you know what I mean? It's about, you know, the kind of like ups and downs, suppose, on, and, you know, like that kind
Oh
of way.
yeah.
Or, like, have there been any major ones where you've been like, fuck this shit, I'm out? Like,
There's been so many. And actually
oh,
some
just, we'll skip it. We don't need
oh, there's been so many, because actually somebody said to me, I can't remember what it was. Oh, it was somebody like on a radio show
Mm,
or like a radio producer or something. They said anytime that they've dealt with comedians and they say to them like, oh, it's changed, or you know, actually we're not going to be talking about that now, we're going to be talking about this, or you know,
mm.
whatever. That comedians are always like, yeah, okay, cool. Like there's like they basically have no reaction because they're so used to things just being insane, or like, you know, that you can't plan them. Like always, like you turn up to a gig and it's like nine times out of ten, who would like, so whether it's the MC or promoter, they'll be like, so look, the thing about the gig is, and then you're like, okay, tell me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's always something. It could be something simple like, okay, so like, you know, when you're holding the mic, don't hold it too far down because it's gonna fall off, because it's actually the mic's broken. So
Mhm.
you've got it when you're holding the mic, you've got to hold the mic like this, like in a
Mm.
particular way with your hand in a really awkward way. Is that okay? Cool. Okay, best of luck. So like there's always something at comedy. I think when like there's there's been loads of ones where basically any of the ones where you really thought like in your head, and it's terrible to say, but you're just standing there wishing for a natural disaster. Like that's, do you know what I mean? Like you really are just, there's no other way out of it than a natural disaster. And you're
You want the
like,
world to just swallow you up, like.
yeah, you're like, I don't want anyone else. I don't want anyone to get hurt or anything like that. But this needs to stop now. They've always
Mm.
been things where it hasn't been like in a proper comedy setting. So it's like when people have tried to parachute comedy into other things.
Yeah, I've heard about
So
people being booked for gigs in restaurants before where people weren't aware that there was going to be a comedian standing up. I like
yeah.
like it just sounds like fucking like some of those ones like read the room, guys. Do you know what I mean? Like why would you do that? Like
It's yeah. Oh, it's always that kind of stuff. And like now at this stage, I know I'm just like, but having said that, full disclosure, I know it's gonna be awful. But I'm just like, give me that sweet, sweet dollar. I'm just like, yeah, sounds great. Can't wait to do it. Because no, if like, you know, if it's a bit of change, if it's a bit of change. Now
yeah.
I'm slightly more discerning, but I still won't rule them out until I see how much it is or whatever. Like I've been doing Zooms all over lockdown. 90%
You've
of
been
them are
doing
horrific. Like let's just be honest about that one. Horrific.
Wait, you haven't been doing Zoom comedy gigs, so have you?
Yes,
I-
of course I have.
What?
Of course I have.
Why are
Dalla
you
dalla.
saying of course?
Dalla
What
dalla.
the fuck? I've never heard that. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, I've heard of people doing, the outdoor gigs and stuff like this. Even like, I've seen ones like that made like kind of like backyard kind of comedy clubs or whatever like this, where it's like on Zoom. Jesus Christ, I'm a fucking hell.
Don't hate the player.
And
Don't
it's
hate the
glitching out
player.
and all, and you'll be like, I did it. Like the punchline gets missed by 10 minutes. Like,
I've done the same, and I know. No, don't
I
get me
mean, way
wrong.
to hustle. You don't need to even leave your house.
Yeah, well, I'm like this pretty sweet. They're on different scales. Now I have had some where you come away from and you're like, oh God, I actually really enjoyed that. But like I've had other ones where, like, let me tell you, right, it's one thing to be at a
Please do.
comedy gig on a Tuesday night where it's like 15 people, 14 of who are like, you know, tourists who are going to be gone tomorrow, whatever.
Yeah.
And that you get the sense of like people kind of looking at their phones and,
Mm.
do you know what I mean? They're just basically they found somewhere to shelter. It's lashing
Yeah.
rain outside.
Somebody has a podcast on. Yeah.
Let's like rain does so much for the comedy circuit in Ireland, okay? Because that's why 60% of people are going to those gigs. But it's one thing to be at those gigs and you're not feeling the vibes and whatever.
Mm.
That's fine. But to do a Zoom gig and for people to turn off their cameras is off the charts. Is off the charts. I did a Zoom gig recently, and in fairness, the manager or whoever, and like, see, all these are corporate gigs as well. So
Yeah, it's all like HR book and then be like, oh my God, we can get you sorted. Yeah, like, don't be worrying. Like, everybody's so excited for it. You're like, fuck off, Joanne.
And you see, you know, because you've been in those environments, like this is being sold to them as like, instead of like their fun Pizza Friday, we're going to give you a Zoom comedy gig. And all these people are just like, pay us more. Pay us more. We don't want this shit. Is this compulsory? No. Well, then I'm out of here. So that's where you're going into. But like when they, oh yeah, so I was at a Zoom there recently, right? And the manager, or whoever, is asking people to like, like turn on your cameras and like let's all get involved, which is definitely going to help the situation, right? Like 100%. And so this one gets shamed into turning her camera on. She's out walking the fucking dog.
Like absolutely shameless. I'd be like, yeah, I'll turn, like, you may as well just not turn up, say your internet's fucked or something. Like,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, totally. Out walking the dog. And I just like, oh, don't forget to get milk and bread while you're out. Like, I'm like, am I disturbing you? Do you know what I mean? I'm there trying to do my little set. I was like, what is the point?
Yeah.
So, but like, if I get asked to do a Zoom gig tomorrow, I'd be like, thanks so much for getting in touch. No problem.
How'd you guys hear about me? Oh my God. Like, I'm so glad for this. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And I am, but I know like it's going to be a lot of work for anyone to have fun, like they are a lot of work. So, yeah, you're just used to it. It's that kind of thing. Like, it's just constantly managing expectations. So like that, you see, like when you're like, oh, like great moments or whatever, that's why you don't have a chance to dwell on them too long, or like kind of be like, yeah, that thing that happened 2 weeks ago, like that was amazing, because up shit creek is just around the corner. So you gotta be alert, like act fast.
Yeah.
It's like, when you do like first aid in a job, like check for scene safety, that's what it's like. Just got to go in, assess the situation. Is everyone breathing? Whatever, take pulse.
And then every day is like a skill day. Yeah, one step at a time. I hear you. God.
Yeah. Don't get distracted.
Don't get caught up in it. Yeah, God, because as soon as you're on a high, baby, you're on a low.
Yeah, you're half an hour away from a Zoom gig that's going to destroy your soul. So
exactly.
It's fine.
And I suppose from, arena gigs to Zoom gigs, everything in between, from the porter jobs and, jumping on to having like some random lad off the internet and make you go through your traumas. What, I suppose, does the future hold for yourself, Emmett? Like, are there any, I suppose, big goals that like you want to achieve, that maybe have any big bucket list things, or is it to, bare basics, being like, I would really like to just be valued for my time and never have to do a Zoom gig in my life?
Oh no, I'm hungry for it all. I want the books. I want the perfumes. I want, I don't know. I haven't really decided yet if it's just going to be like kind of like leisure wear or whatever. But do you know what I mean? I want it all.
I get you.
So to be honest, like, I do try to, like dream big or whatever, but it is a bit hard. You're just like, oh, come on. But I think it's like, I'm totally obsessed with comedy and I really love it. So I'll probably never, if you talk to me next year, it probably would have been like completely different, or if you talked to me last year or whatever. So I think I'm constantly just looking to the next thing. So I do like enjoy when you feel like you've had like a bit of a success or something has like paid off or whatever, but I'm constantly just looking at the next thing all the time. So for the future, less Zoom gigs I would love, and just more work. Like that is as simple as it is. I just love more work in comedy, like in being an entertainer or performer or whatever you want to call it. So that's all it is. And I think for most people that do like comedy or acting or whatever, like if they're in like radio or like say like yourself with the podcast, if you feel like it's kind of moving in the right direction, then it's enough. It's not going to be every single day, there's going to be little like bumps, but as long as it's kind of moving like in the right direction.
If there's like a Netflix special here and there, like that's, do you know what I mean? That kind of keeps you, that kind of keeps things.
That'd be nice. But if I can kind of like year on year, if I can look at it and feel like I'm kind of further on, then that's fine.
Yeah.
And that I'm still enjoying it or whatever.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, like loads, absolutely loads I want to do, but I think that will just be how I'll look at it forever. Really, always
Yeah.
other stuff that I want to do. Definitely.
Yeah. No, I suppose that's the best way as well. I mean, just in case there's another fucking pandemic, Jesus Christ, like you're just being like, I shouldn't joke about that. I actually should never even like. You're being like looking at me, giving me like, kind of shut the
No,
fuck
I
up.
no.
But I suppose Emma, just before we go, because I know I've been absolutely ripping the arse out of this, I really do appreciate that.
Thanks for
I've
having
been
me.
dragging it out so much. I was wondering now, kind of throughout these kind of interviews and stuff, I guess I try to kind of take down some just like keywords, key phrases, and I wonder if you play a little word association game with me.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Yeah, it essentially is just to get you to react to one thing at the end, but like it's fine. Like just like everybody just plays along for anyways. But yeah, if you're all good, I mean, there's some good ones here. We've kind of touched most of them. We've kind of touched on anyways. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're ready, yeah.
Let's go.
Okay, sweet. Let's go. First word, I suppose, is something. I mean, that's pretty new. Freelance.
Scary.
Scary. Pandemic.
Finished.
Sure, it's mad. Dublin.
Dublin. Centric.
Kitchen porter.
Kitchen porter. Oh my god. Painful.
Corporate job.
Puke.
Zoom gigs.
Christ.
And Finnterviews. Ah! I'll cut it there. No, I'll cut it there.
No.
No.
Do you know what issues? But I didn't. Do you know what? That's why I said to you, let's do this early, because then I wouldn't be thinking about it. Usually, when I do like an interview or a podcast, whatever, I kind of dread it. But then when I do it, I actually really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think it's just a little bit of laziness, but that's with anybody. Like
Yeah.
even if it was like a case of like say Conan O'Brien said to me that he wanted to interview me, okay, I'd be dreading it.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? And then when I
Yeah.
start doing it, because I obviously love, like, who doesn't love sitting there getting to talk about themselves burning the ear off somebody? Do you know what I mean? So it's a nice experience, and this was a pleasure to do. But I do always I dread them.
I mean,
I
it was
do.
word association, but like, I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I know. What's the word?
You're like shit crack.
Interviews. I don't know. I actually don't know. I'll think of it in maybe in 2 weeks.
I'll
Have a
edit
word.
something in anyways. Yeah, I'll put like, I'll sound clip one of your like last videos. Be like,
Yeah.
absolutely amazing. Yeah, I
Amazing.
know.
Yeah,
Don't
amazing.
don't worry at all. Well, thank you so much for coming on, take time. I honestly do appreciate anybody that sits down. I suppose like, for the odd chance that again somebody has came on this and has kind of heard your story and all the rest of the crack, and they want to find out more, where can they find out everything? Emma, Doran, go on.
Give me an old Google, and I am like the usual ones, whoring me wares. I'm on everything. I'm on Instagram. I'm a Doran comedian. I'm even on TikTok as a feckin' L one. I'm on LinkedIn. Like, if you don't follow me after this, like, sorry, like, I insulted you. Sorry, you hate me so much.
Yeah.
Like, I'm literally everywhere. And it's not just like vanity. It actually helps me pitch stuff, because then I can say to someone, I've X amount of followers. And for some reason, people care about this kind of shit. So yeah. Is that good enough?
Yeah, I suppose if you don't fucking know where I am, get to know where I am. You piece of
Yeah,
shit.
because it actually would help me. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm just here trying to make a living. Like, I have 3 kids. I just bought a fucking house. Like, what the fuck? So please.
Yeah,
It's turned into a
SEO.
bit of an appeal now. So you just like, if you want to
Yeah,
follow me, do. If you don't, like,
get
don't
those
get it, it's
SEO
fine.
searches up. Yeah, you know what I mean? Got to track those KPIs. I hear you.
It's true. Sweet Jesus,
No,
it's true.
Jesus Christ. I mean, for a Tuesday morning, I couldn't have asked for any better crack, honestly. So thank you so much.
Thanks for
And,
having me.
I'll allow you away with your day now. Yeah, I can't wait to see where you go from here.
Yeah, you too. Best of luck with the podcast.
No worries, Emma. See you later. Bye.
Bye. Thanks a mil.
Well, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Finnterviews, and thank you so much to Emma for joining me on this show. Make sure to give her a follow and keep up to date with all her stuff that she's doing. She's got some amazing things coming up in the very near future. Also, never miss another episode by giving myself a little follow on socials. You can do that by finding me by just typing in Finnterviews. I'll be on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, all of that. Basically, type in Finnterviews somewhere and you'll find me. And, hit that subscribe button. Give me a wee like, comment. Let me know who you would like to hear next on the show. And who knows, I could get them on for you. Until next time, really appreciate you sitting out this long listening to the podcast. But I'll leave it there and I'll chat to you later. Bye.